If you want the social media experience to be a healthier one, you are going to have to take it upon yourself to implement that. That's what I'm saying, app defaults. Every single one of these apps has options, a lot of options actually, to tailor the experience to make it a lot less predatory to kids. Unfortunately, most parents don't do that. So where does it lead to? Well, we go back up to step 1 and 2. It leads to censorship, and it leads to nationwide laws on verification and restrictions that, to me personally, are not good. Kiss for you. So you've no doubt seen over the past week and a half or 2 weeks a variety of laws and apps from various countries like the UK, Australia, as well as companies like YouTube relating to things like online safety, child online safety, age verification, and that kind of stuff. And I kind of wanted to look at it from the perspective of, do these acts that are being kind of implemented, or do these laws actually help the children that they are most of the time targeting? And you can probably figure out the answer as I'm going to reveal in a second here. But I come at this from that perspective because, as I will disclose here in a minute, I do offer as a business, EOSS here. That is kind of what I do, is I go through and create a personalized plan here, just relating to child safety in general, and trying to create like the best plan for them, and then come at this kind of like with a white glove approach and implement solutions for people. So if their child is like, spending too much time on screen time or having some, rough behavior for that, we can help create a plan that can then be implemented by myself and the parent to kind of alleviate some of those issues. So I kind of run a consultancy service focused on that. This is not an ad for it or anything. I just kind of want to give you that disclosure because that is kind of where I'm coming at this from, as a someone that has clients a lot oftentimes, and parents that come up to me and ask various things relating to online safety. So to answer the question at the top here, do these child online safety acts actually help children? Obvious answer is no. And I think I have a decent explanation for it here. So my explanation is this. To me, at least, you need to earn the trust and the right of control by proving that it is in the best interest of the child to have these restrictions in place. Now, I cannot be the one to effectively dictate what those goals are, but I can say that that's, I think, probably where it needs to start from, is the reason and the biggest issue to why these things stop working and have a lot of issues with their implementation is because they don't earn, whether they be the parents or they be a government entity or what have you, they do not earn the trust and the right of control in this situation to be able to influence this to this degree, right? You have to earn this from whoever is being affected by these laws, whether it be children or adults, and you have to earn that by proving that is in the best interest. Now, what that means will depend, obviously, on what the law is and stuff, but I think that's where you have to come at it from. And if you can't do that, or you refuse to do that, that's when you get a lot of issues relating to how people approach this kind of thing. I've been talking in sort of vague generalities here because the rest of the video is going to be talking about the 4 specific instances, so let's just get onto it. As I mentioned before, disclosure, I have an EOSS business here that focuses on online safety consulting, so just be aware of that, but I'm not trying to make that influence any part of the decision. So really what you start off with here is step 1, and the first kind of thing that starts it off with. And we'll go on to the first article here. All of these will be linked in the description. Pretty much, Visa and MasterCard got pressured by an advocacy group, funny enough, in Australia, and kind of forced their hand, forced Steam and itch.io's hand, which are big gaming sites, gaming stores, retail stores, effectively, online store fronts. And they are Visa and MasterCard, which are the big payment processors, credit card companies, basically forced Steam's hand and said, hey, if you don't remove these certain adult games from Steam or from itch, we will remove our services from your platform, which is obviously very important because Visa and MasterCard are the 2 biggest ones, and if you can't accept that, you're kind of dead in the water. So this is something that's definitely alarming because up to this point, the payment processors have had pretty much no say in how that operates and what you can buy. And all of a sudden, they're able to have complete say in what games you are and are not allowed to purchase, which was definitely quite a concern. But that's kind of where all this started, because, well, this has been happening for a while. This is the first time that has ever actually been successful, and people were rightfully so very concerned about the fact that, okay, it's starting with these games, but then it could go on to much worse implementations of it. So that's kind of where it starts and why I label it as step one, which is the general censorship of information, whether it be from games or books or movies or what have you, the general rewriting and censorship of information, specifically in this case by third parties. It's not by Steam. Steam isn't saying, hey, they violated our platform rules or anything. This is the payment processors being like, we don't want you buying these things on our platform effectively, which is, again, quite concerning. So that's where it kind of starts. The second one, and the second biggest thing that kind of happened here, is a verification. And this comes into where the UK's age verification laws start to come into effect. And this is obviously relating to, verification of age for oftentimes things like adult websites, but also for things like Spotify or music videos or anything pretty much that's labeled 18 plus. And because it's in the UK, things like social media could be seen as labeled 18 plus in the UK, where they are not in the US, for instance. Although I don't believe this verification applies to that specifically, which is good to know. But generally speaking, the UK age verification law is pretty self-explanatory. It's the fact that you have to submit your government ID to access anything that is over 18, whether that be through porn sites or it's more casual forms of adult content like Spotify or YouTube music videos, that kind of thing. And obviously because of that, you're going to need things like a VPN or other situations, other kind of options in order to get around that. But that is definitely important to note that this is, well, technically a full-blown nationwide ban on adult content for under 18, generally as what it's being seen by. Obviously there's ways around it, and it doesn't affect, I would say, the most critical aspects, that is like social media. But it is still obviously a very big change that's affecting a lot of people, whether they partake in that or not, and that is the fact that it's an entire nationwide thing. This isn't just like one town in the UK, this is an entire countrywide kind of verification law that is quite drastic. You haven't really seen this kind of, I would say, limits or restrictions at a country level pretty much ever. I mean, you've seen some obviously in the Middle East when it comes to the customs there, but you haven't really seen a, I would say, Western country that's more focused on that kind of personal or citizen freedom for the most part go down this route. And obviously there's been some things in the US state by state level, but this is a full-blown ban. This isn't just for porn sites specifically. This is hey, are you 18 over for Spotify, for YouTube, for Instagram, right? It's a full-blown, full-scale thing, and that's what that is. And I call that step 2 verification, because once you censor stuff, you now have to verify that censorship is effectively being implemented by sending over your government ID and saying, hey, you can't access these kind of games, right, for instance. However, you have to now prove that you can access these kind of games, right? And these are different things, but I think it's the progression. It's this is step 1. This is actually being able to censor things based on a third party. This one is, hey, let's implement this on a nationwide scale. Let's implement this on a full map scale, not just Visa and MasterCard are pretty US based specifically. I mean, I'm sure there's options for other ones, but they are US companies, so I don't believe that these affect more things than the US. I could be wrong about that, but this is pretty localized to Steam and itch.io game storefronts with Visa, MasterCard, adult games, that kind of thing. This is anything that's over 18 in a country, so this is definitely a step up. The third one is an even broader control, which is the restriction and control of an entire category of items. This was just over 18 things. This is social media in general for people under 16 in Australia. This includes Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Reddit, what have you. YouTube is not safe. This thumbnail that someone made is before they determined. This law has been about to be going into effect for a while now. So let's bring that one up here. Yeah, this one. YouTube is not safe from this. As of July 30th, which was 2 days ago, Australia widened the media ban to include YouTube. Now, this ban is important to note because, while it prevents accounts from being made on social media, it does not prevent, for instance, on YouTube from you using it either through YouTube Kids or through a not logged in user or through a parent's account or something, right? So they are not checking it to that degree, but they are definitely preventing you from making an account. Meaning for YouTube, at least, you can do it signed out. You can do through YouTube Kids. You can do through a parent stuff. Teachers are still allowed to play YouTube videos to minors, which was a crazy thing that they have to specify. But you, as a minor, cannot make a YouTube account if you are under 16 in Australia. This applies to other social media as well, but because most of the time, if you go to like Instagram or something, you can't actually view those without being logged in, this does effectively ban those things from Australia, unless obviously you're over 18. But then, as mentioned with the UK one, you have to provide your identity. So we're going from, you know, the degrees of specificity. You have adult games on Steam and itch.io in the US being pressured by Visa MasterCard to be taken off. You have an entire country, and then you have an entire country banning a category of thing for a general audience, effectively, right? And then step 4 is effectively what happens after. And these two steps, funny enough, are also pretty common in parent situations. I talk to a lot of parents, and their first thing is, okay, why don't I just restrict all of them? Why don't I just, like, you know, say a full-scale limit on social media of like 2 hours or 1 hour a day or whatever, right? And what I usually tell them is, if you do that, you haven't, I don't say that you haven't earned their trust, but I kind of phrase it in a way of like, you are not going to be happy with the results that this has because of the nature of how abrupt it is. Restrict and control being step 3, and adapt and autonomy being step 4. This is relating to what YouTube is starting to roll out with their AI age verification thing on their side, but it also relates to how kids will often adapt and change up what they're doing to get around these laws or these restrictions set by the parents. So in step 4 here, when you have the thing of being like, hey, we need to, in YouTube's case, we need to find a better way to identify accounts that are pretending to be 18 for, you know, legal reasons or data collection reasons. They're now doing AI age verification, which hasn't gone well historically and is not going well currently. As we go to this one, gauging U.S. users' age with AI, and it's incorrectly doing that based on the determination of like what you're watching, what content you're watching, what you're engaging with, that kind of thing. That's not good, especially because it's automatic, and YouTube's AI thing when it comes to copyright and other stuff is not good. So applying that to age checks, which will also apply restrictions to YouTube, is definitely a catastrophically stupid idea. So that's the Guardian article talking about that here. But why that matters and how it kind of relates to everything else is, again, the question that we're trying to ask, and we go through this, is do these safety acts relating to children actually help the children? In the first case, this censorship one does not do that because it is not providing a alternative means. Like, this is just saying a blanket statement of you with your money that you earn by a whatever method cannot buy this game because it has these kind of themes or stuff in it. Obviously, they chose an easy target, but the more and more you see this happen, the less and less clear-cut the target becomes. Verification, once again, doesn't help the children because the children aren't the main target of this thing. The idea is a blanket restriction. Those don't tend to work. Same thing with here, the restriction and control. Those don't tend to work. They're also not helping the children because they are still going to be able to get access to things like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok through other means, video watching just in general, right? That's not going to stop them from being able to do that. Other workarounds for this include having someone that's over 18 just send you videos for you to watch, right? So it's like stuff there. And then for the YouTube thing where it's identifying your age based on how that works, that's not good, right? And that is relating to just accidentally saying someone that's 18 or 25 is like 15, right? And that has a bunch of restrictions on what you can comment on what you can create, and that kind of stuff. That doesn't help either for the children because it's not really protecting children. If it's the detriment here is targeting people that are over 18 and setting them to 15, right? Even if you lie about your YouTube age and you're like actually 15 and not 18, that doesn't really affect a lot of the things you can do on the platform. The only time it does is if you're under 13 for like data collection laws, as well as what like YouTube Kids kind of does with its content. But that is not, again, relating to like if you're 15 and you're saying you're 18 so you can watch like an 18 plus like or a restricted music video, right? This thing doesn't really affect you. It's detrimental to obviously under 13, but more importantly, it's detrimental to people that are like 20 and accidentally getting hit by the like you're 15 or you're 12. So we added restrictions on you, right? That doesn't help the children. And so all this is kind of set up to say that none of these things that they're trying to implement are helping children. And now here's some free advice. This would typically be part of, the consultancy stuff I do, but let's just talk about it here. These are going to be relatively, personal, or I guess white glove, if you will, because that is typically how I kind of give advice and how I advise stuff. So if you want to implement these for your own children, if there's any parents watching, or if you want to tell people about this video to talk about that, I think that's very good. But solution one I have here is something I like to call collective effort. I'll have a video on the EOSS YouTube channel about this soon. I think of collective effort as pretty much a way to gauge a group. So I guess I'll give an example here. Let's just put, okay, so we got, let's say we have four kids, and we'll just label these as kids. Okay, 4 kids. Each of them have a phone. Phone. Each of them has a phone, and one of these, let's just zoom in here, one of these has a restriction on them of like 2 hours a day, right? All the others do not have any restrictions on them. So now all of a sudden in this group where we're all playing, you have a restriction of 2 hours, no one else does, your time runs up, everyone else is here. The thing that happens is this person here is singled out. If instead the parents, it's here, if instead the parents kind of get together and they talk about what the restrictions they want for their children are, and they all set a universal time of, let's say, 3 hours, now all of a sudden everyone has the same amount of restrictions. This is just a simple example for screen time. But let's just say now all of a sudden you have 3 hours for each person. Okay, that is better because now no one is singled out. And the reason it's called collective effort is because it only works if everyone agrees. And that prevents a couple things. It prevents people from feeling singled out, but it also creates an environment where you do not feel like the restrictions placed on you are restrictions. When you implement this kind of thinking, they aren't restrictions. They're just how the group operates, right? Obviously, if more people come in, that's going to kind of, mix things up a little bit. But generally, the idea here is you want to set a ground rule that doesn't feel like a restriction. It just feels like the rules, right? Like, not swing, not, what's the typical, like, a playground, right? Rules in terms of like, don't go more than one at a time on the slide or something, right? That's usually to prevent people from like cramming in and falling off the side or hitting their head or something, right? Oftentimes those rules are more followed and more understandable than a feeling like an extraneous rule, like only one person on the jungle gym at one time, right? Like when the rules are based on set kind of like universal understanding, if everyone in the group has a 3-hour limit, no one feels like that 3-hour limit's a limit. They just think that that's kind of just the rule and how they play. So that's kind of what I mean by collective effort. A group, in this case, let's say it's a neighborhood of some kind, will decide, hey, all the kids in our little like circle here have about 3 hours of screen time, and this is good because that lets them actually be able to do other things than just play on their phones all day, right? That's kind of collective effort. That's this ability, and this is screen time, but it could apply to social media use or what have you. And it's just kind of relating to if you do things this way, it doesn't feel like restrictions. And the reason you're trying to prevent restrictions is because you're trying to prevent this. You're trying to prevent the adaption. You're trying to prevent people and kids specifically from going around your rules. If your rules are set and they are based on, a collective understanding, they're considerably less likely to want to break them versus it being one kid or 2 kids having a lot of restrictions that the others don't. All of a sudden, you're going to get them wanting to use other people's phones and go around the restrictions and be a lot more rebellious than they typically would be. And I've seen this from personal experience. A lot of times, often this is what we tried to do. We tried to create a collective of people and of a neighborhood that wanted to do this. And if you didn't do this, you would see kids trying to, get into selling drugs or get into various other things just to be rebellious, or more importantly, to go beyond the annoyingly strict rules that they set. So if you want to prevent this thing from happening, I would say a good solution, number 1 anyway, is collective effort. Number 2, this is something that, again, the parents would probably want to do, but it could also be set at a, company level, right? At a software level, if it came to that. App defaults. Every single one of these apps shown here has a default option for screen time, for taking a break, for content guidelines, for all that stuff that you can set in each app. And unfortunately, that is kind of where the issue becomes, right? It's for each app. You can set a screen time thing in like Apple Screen Time or Android Digital Wellness, but those are not going to help you for each, right? You can do like categories, like, hey, all social media or whatever. But if you actually want, like, hey, Instagram, I want to remind me every half hour to take a break. Facebook, I want to only be on it for a max of 2 hours a day. Snapchat, I want to delete my messages after 24 hours. I want to prevent my location from being tracked. TikTok, I want to only be able to post stuff to my friends instead of to everyone. I want only my friends to be able to message me, right? That kind of thing. YouTube, having restrictions on, what kind of content it recommends, what things you like. Reddit, similar thing. And, not to bring this up again, but that is part of what I do. If you go down to the section here on safety is complicated, you'll see just in Instagram, there's like a bunch of screenshots relating to things like who you can message, who you can reply to, what accounts are blocked, what limits are in place for interactions. All this is not hit by typical parental controls. And it's really important that you kind of go into it and look for those things. Now, obviously, you don't have to do it to this granular level, but it is important to note that that does exist. Every single one of these apps has something like that, where you can restrict the screen time and you can restrict who messages these people and what they can, not what they can post, but like who they can post to, that kind of thing. And not a lot of people know that, but it is solution 2. It's if you want the social media experience to be a healthier one, you are going to have to take it upon yourself to implement that. Again, Instagram is a good example. Things like hide story and lives from people. Things like content from accounts you don't follow. You can set who you're interested in. You can set hidden words. You can set your account to private so that you have to actually accept followers instead of it being just auto-followed, right? That's what I'm saying, app defaults. Every single one of these apps has options, a lot of options actually, to tailor the experience to make it a lot less predatory to kids. Unfortunately, most parents don't do that. So where does it lead to? Well, we go back up to step 1 and 2. It leads to censorship and it leads to nationwide laws on verification and restrictions that, to me personally, are not good. So hopefully in this video I was able to explain both everything here relating to if these actually help children, the process by which it goes through the different steps relating to everything that has been going on recently, and at least my solutions that I would pick right here by a collective effort and by app defaults. Hopefully that was interesting and you kind of got some info out of it. If you're interested in more of this kind of stuff, I would suggest checking out the EOS YouTube channel that I post videos relating to this kind of stuff for child online safety. Checking out the EOS website if you're interested in a personalized white glove consultation and implementation service relating to online safety. There's no app, no subscription, none of that stuff. You don't need an account or anything. I'm not selling your info. I do try and provide free content as well via the YouTube channel. But if you're interested in that, it's just like a one-time purchase and we get to work on a plan for your child. Obviously, if you don't want to do that, no problem. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to either my main channel, MacEbs, or my gaming channel, MacEbs Gaming. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, or you want to see more things like tech reviews, I do that here on this channel too. And I just want to thank you everyone for watching. I hope this video was helpful to some capacity, either for helping understanding what the current situation is, or for how to fix it. And I'll see everyone in the next video.